You've seen the thumbnails: retired at 32, never working again after 40, and when you click, it's almost always the same three stories. They sold a company, had tech stock money, or bought the right thing at the right time once and built an entire personality around it, which is exactly why your brain files early retirement next to winning the lottery. Nice story, not relevant. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people who quietly reach financial independence early do it with boring math and repeatable habits, not luck. They aren't tracking 50 spreadsheets. They're watching 4 numbers like a hawk. Numbers that tell them how fast they're moving, how far they have left, and what to change next. Because if you can read and update just 4 numbers once a month, you can build a real plan to retire 10 or even 20 years earlier than the default.
My name is Yahya, and I make videos that run the actual numbers behind money so you can stop guessing and start moving toward freedom on purpose. And if this video gives you a clearer path to retirement, hit subscribe and tap the like button so more people see it. The first, and honestly most important, number is your savings rate, the percentage of your take-home pay that actually gets invested for future you. Not what you meant to save, not what's left in your checking account at the end of the month, but what actually leaves your spending world and enters your investing world. The formula is simple. Take what you invested last month, divide by your take-home pay, and multiply by 100. So if you bring home $3,000 and consistently invest $600, your savings rate is 20%. But if you bring home $5,000 and only invest $200, that's just 4%.
Grab your phone or a piece of paper. Add up everything you invested last month across retirement accounts, brokerages, and long-term savings you don't touch. Divide by your take-home, multiply by 100, and write that number down, because that's your true savings rate. As a rough guide, under 10% puts you on the standard late 60s retirement path. Around 15% is better than average, but won't radically shift your timeline. 20 to 30% starts pulling retirement forward in a real way, and 40% plus is where retiring decades early becomes possible. The key idea is this: your savings rate matters more than your investment genius. A boring index fund with a 30% savings rate beats someone stock picking at 5% almost every time, because you simply cannot out-invest a low savings rate.
Here's your annual spending, the full cost of your life for 1 year, and most people understate it because they remember rent and groceries but forget subscriptions, random Amazon orders, ride shares, gifts, and little treats. This number matters for 2 reasons. It directly shapes your savings rate, and it sets the size of your finish line, your financial independence target. To estimate it without becoming a full-time accountant, pull your last 3 complete months of bank and card transactions, add up everything that went out each month with no categories and no judgment, average those 3 totals, and multiply by 12. So if month 1 was $3,400, month 2 $3,800, and month 3 $3,600, your average is $3,600, times 12 is $43,200, and that's the real cost of your current lifestyle.
Most people would have said in their head, I spend around $3,000 a month, but the math says over $43,000 a year, and that gap between vibe and reality is exactly why tracking this number matters. Here's the fun and slightly dangerous part. Every permanent $1,000 you cut from your yearly spending both increases your savings rate right now and lowers the total amount you ever need to be financially independent, meaning you're not just cutting costs, you're shrinking the finish line. That's why people in the FIRE space obsess over spending, not because they enjoy being cheap, but because this single number determines both your speed and your destination.
Number 3 is your investable assets, the pile you've already built that can actually go to work for you, which includes retirement accounts like a 401k or IRA, brokerage accounts, and long-term cash or high-yield savings earmarked for investing, but generally does not include your primary home, your car, or your furniture and gadgets, because we're focusing on assets that can realistically be turned into spending money later without blowing up your basic life. So if you have $70,000 in a 401k, $15,000 in a Roth IRA, and $5,000 in a brokerage account, your investable assets are $90,000, and that's the number that matters. This is a number compounding works on, the number market returns multiply, and at the beginning it feels painfully slow. Going from $2,000 to $4,000 can feel like nothing, But later, when growth itself is adding $5,000 or $10,000 a year, this is a number that starts to feel unfair in the best way. Once a month, on the same date, write down your total investable assets in one place. A notes app, a spreadsheet, whatever works for you. And don't check it daily. Just log it monthly. Because people who regularly look at their numbers tend to save more over time, simply because their goals stay in front of their mind.
The fourth number is the one everyone actually cares about, years to FI, meaning how long until work becomes optional. And to get there, you first need your FIRE number, the total investable assets required so you can live off a safe withdrawal each year. The classic rule of thumb is the 4% rule, which came from historical data asking what withdrawal rate from a balanced portfolio would have survived at least 30 years in most cases. And flipped around, it gives you a simple target of 25 times your annual spending. So if you spend $40,000 a year, your FIRE number is around $1 million. And if you spend $30,000, it's about $750,000. Some updated research suggests that if you're flexible, able to cut back in bad years or bring in some side income, you might safely withdraw closer to 4.5–4.7%, which brings your target down to roughly 21–22 times your annual spending instead of 25.
Rather than building your entire future on the most optimistic backtest on the internet, here's a balanced approach. Plan your life using 25 times your expenses. Consider yourself financially flexible once you pass 21–22 times, and treat anything above that as extra margin of safety. To turn that into years, calculate your FIRE number as annual spending times 25. Subtract your current investable assets to get your FI gap, then divide that gap by your yearly investing for a simple straight-line estimate. Or plug your numbers into a compound interest calculator at 6–7% for a more realistic picture. For example, if you need $800,000 more and you're investing $20,000 a year, the straight line says 40 years. But at a 7% average return, that timeline shrinks to roughly 22 years, because compounding quietly cuts your wait time almost in half. Your real years to FI will depend on markets, consistency, and how often you increase your yearly investing number. But even a rough estimate is powerful, because it turns someday into this many years at this pace.
Managing all of this doesn't have to turn your life into a spreadsheet factory. A simple system under an hour a month is all you need. Start by building a one-page dashboard in a Note, Notion, or Google Sheet with just 4 lines: savings rate, annual spending, investable assets, and years to FI. Then pick a monthly money check-in date where you update last month's total spending and refresh your annual estimate. Add up all your investable accounts for a new total, recalculate your savings rate, and re-estimate your years to FI. The first time might take an hour, but after that, you'll be closer to 20–30 minutes.
The final step is to make one small change per month. On that same check-in day, ask yourself what single adjustment can improve at least one of your 4 numbers, whether that's increasing your automatic investment by $25 or $50, canceling one recurring expense to lock in a lower annual spending, or directing any small bonus or side income strictly toward investable assets. 4 numbers, 1 page, 1 check-in a month, 1 decision per month. That's 12 decisions a year, and over 10 years, that's 120 nudges all pointing in the same direction, toward freedom. This is how people actually retire early, not with one big dramatic move, but with tiny, boring, powerful adjustments made over and over again.
Early retirement feels like a yes or no question. Either you're one of those people or you're not. But in reality, it's a direction question. And if month after month your savings rate is slowly rising, your annual spending is under control, your investable assets are growing, and your estimated years to FI are drifting downward, then you are on the path, even if your income is ordinary, even if you started late, and even if today's numbers feel small. But if those 4 numbers are moving the wrong way, lower savings rate, rising spending, stagnant assets, and years to FI stretching out, no high-yield account or hot stock tip is going to fix it.
The good news is you don't have to fix all 4 numbers at once. You just have to start watching them and let the reality of those numbers shape your behavior a little more each month. Most people never open the tab, but you did. You ran the numbers, and now you know exactly what you're working with. The rest is repetition. Protect the gap between what comes in and what goes out. Put that gap into assets that grow, and give time and compounding a chance to do what they've always done, because that's how people retire decades earlier than the default. Not through magic or luck, but but through 4 numbers and what they choose to do with them. If this helped you see early retirement as a set of numbers you can actually control, not just a fantasy for rich people, give this video a like so it reaches more people who need a clear plan. Subscribe for more guides that break money down into simple systems like this, and I'll see you in the next one.